I did manage to get it running there. It looks like I just made a silly typo. I apologize. So if we run node main, I'm running node now because we don't actually have this set up for anything with a web page. So Parcel's really good at creating web pages and running a server, but we don't need that right now. But I also had to change the I couldn't use import. I can't use that syntax with the version of Node I have, or I haven't configured my Node for that. So I had to import it a different way. I had to say require Redux. I did have I'm just going to undo all my changes here. So this is what it was before the video stopped. And it said undefined, undefined, undefined. Two reasons for that. So here's how I suppose I would actually try and debug that. Whenever I see something like this happening, I want to guarantee to myself that this is even running. So what I would do is I would say console log. See, because at this point, I'm not even convinced that these things are even detecting correctly. So here, I added that console log here, and it looks like our default is running, and it's running again, and it's running again, and it's running again. So the first default, I imagine, was for when the store was created. And I do believe the next three were for when we actually dispatched these three actions. So what that tells us is we're not detecting the type of the action correctly. And the reason for that is because I made a typo. So I said increment here, but when I down here, I spelled it increment. So that was just a silly mistake. Let me fix that. And it works better because we have an increment, and a decrement. So that gives me some confidence that that shows us that we're hitting the right cases now. Let me delete that. Let me delete that. Let me delete that. The problem now is, well, what's the initial state of this? So in the very beginning, when we created this store, the state is undefined. So we didn't define the initial state for this. And there's actually a good way to do that. We can actually use a optional parameter. So we're going to say state is either equal to 0 or it will be passed in to us. So by initializing the state, now the first time it ever comes in, it is 0. And it's going to be passed in again. It comes back as 0, but now that it's actually a number, we're able to increment it to 1. And 1 gets passed in next time, and we're able to increment that to 2. And then 2 comes in, and we're able to decrement that to 1. So when we actually run create store here, we give it this reducer, and the store keeps track of everything that came back from that function. So remember that the whole point of the store is to keep track of the state of the application. And what it does is it uses the reducer to give it its last known state, and it gives it the action. And the point of the reducer is to take the given state and a given action and to return new state. And so here it actually is computing it well. The only thing that we did not do well was we didn't tell it what to do in the very beginning. So you'll see this a lot. You'll see that when you define a reducer, you say the very first time that state comes through, we're going to give it a default value. Otherwise, what we're seeing over here is the store will actually pass in the old state. So it either passes in the old state or you should provide some sort of default state. So here is Redux. That's about the simplest it gets right there. This is very raw, just the fact that it's just on the command line. And the next thing we're going to do is show you how to hook this up inside of a React application.